to Witchy Wednesday number 5. I know it's been a while, but listen, voice is back. Well, mostly back. It's still a bit wibbly wobbly occasionally, but it's getting there. It's still a little bit fragile, so I can't shout or anything. Won't be joining the 3 tenors anytime soon, but yeah, I'm doing okay. So what I have here for Witchy Wednesday today is those of you who've been joining Marianne Kensington over on Pocketful of Vintage for the 1 week in a month journal thing where you make a box, or you have a box and you fill it with stuff. Well, I can't say I've been doing that because I really haven't. I haven't got as far as actually starting yet, but I do intend to. It's just I need to organise a few things before I can get round to it, because what I want to do is take the idea of journaling on cards or tags, or you know, take the prompts that she's given, instead of just journaling them and doing the prompts, I want to kind of convert it to fit with my book of shadows. So I've got to think about that, and I need to work out what I want to put where and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to take a little bit of time. But I have got my box, or rather I did have my box until Miss Maddie sat on it. So I'm going to have to get another box now. This probably wasn't the sturdiest box anyway, and it's actually not quite big enough, because by the time I put my book of shadows in it, there's not going to be much room for anything else. So what I'm just doing at the moment is I'm just collecting bits and pieces together in this box that I may or may not use in my book of shadows. I may also just, you know, give them out to friends or whatever. Oh, that's my shopping list. That shouldn't be in there. That's a good start, isn't it? So I've got some parchment paper, I've got a scrap of watercolour paper, I've got some strips of paper that are nice colours. I actually thought I might use them in my Filofax, which I'll come back to in a second. I've got some vellum. I've got my Madame Perrault stuff that I bought from Do Crafts, which you've seen before. I've got some... These are actually Book of Shadows oriented die cut letters. A friend of mine actually did me a load of different ones, like spells and rituals and Book of Shadows, you know, pagan, all that kind of stuff, pentagram, all sorts of things. So I need to go through those and re-sort them into their respective alphabets and letters and see what I've got. I believe it was Emma made me those. Yes, I think it was Emma made me those way back. I've got little bits of cards and envelopes and things that people have given me, racks and things in, and I thought, oh, hang on, not throwing that away. I will use it in my book. I may not use it in my big book here, but I will certainly use it in my other book. I've got some sparkly bits and some nice fibres. I thought I might use these as the bookmarks. I've got some more fibres here to use as bookmarks. I thought those would go well with this because this is red themed. And this is kind of red and rust and purple, and I thought that would be really nice. More little envelopes. I've got all sorts of crap in here basically. Bits of vellum, mulberry paper, fragile paper that I've kept, that I thought would be good to use. Bags of sparklies and die cuts, all witchy themed. Some more die cuts and sponge things, and oh, I've got all sorts in here. Sparklies, gotta have the sparklies, haven't you? Tags that people have made me. Oh, there's my other washi tape. It's amazing what you find when you dig into a box. So yeah, you can see it's just all bits and pieces that I've collected together that I've thought, oh, I could use that. I've even got some bits of paper in here. This is a paper bag, but I liked the design on it. I thought it would go with my vintage. And I've also got, excuse the squeaky chair, I've also got this, which is actually off, Helen got some flowers for Valentine's Day, and I rescued it because I thought, oh, that's a really pretty design. You know, it's a nice bit of paper. I thought I'd keep that. I'm sure I can use at least part of it. I haven't put it in the box because I don't want to fold it up any more than it already is. So yeah, that's my little box of tricks. I don't know how much or how little of it I will use. We'll see as we go along. Might use all of it, might use some of it, might not use any of it. Oh, and I bought these. I thought these would be, because I've got such small writing, when I write out spells and stuff, there's not always, I don't always need a big amount of room for something. So I thought I could use these for very short bits and pieces. And this for sort of titles and things. And also I really like this design here, and I thought that would be quite good for using in between sections, just to mark sections off, if you understand me. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So let's put that over there. I've also got, this is all part of my steampunk set, which again Miss Maddie's walked all over apparently. These are my stickers, and these are just, this is card that you can cut up, or it's got a nice design on the back. So this will go in my other book of shadows. Now, when I said I'd come back to my Filofax, I took everything out of my Filofax because I hadn't really started it. I'd put it together, but I hadn't really done anything with it or put anything into it. I've taken it out because I really need to use my domino for archiving for work, because my little one is simply not big enough to put an entire year's worth of 2 calendars in it that I need. So I've had to move everything back out of my domino. However, I'm going to go back to my original idea and use one of these. This is just an ordinary, everyday, it's just a Dale Rowney book basically. But I can write in here, I can use any pen on this, any pen at all, except, even markers will work on this, but they bleed through. I can use absolutely any pen in this. I don't have to be quite as neat and tidy as I'm being in my book of shadows, and I can just stick bits in. I feel like I can stick magazine bits and stuff in here, and it's not dissimilar to what I was using before, it's just a better size. So it's not this is A4, which is 8.5 by 11.75, and this is 10 by 7, 7.5, 10 by 7.5. As you can see, I did start working in it at one point when I was going to use it as my book of shadows, and then I thought, no, I got this one, and I thought, no, I'm gonna have to use this. This is a beautiful book. One thing I would say about these books is be very careful you don't get the covers wet. I'd had my dinner, and the table was still warm and slightly damp where my plate had been. Didn't think about it, put my book of shadows down, and you can actually see the circle of where the plate was. It's really taken the colour out of the thing, and I've got a nice stain all over my table that now won't come off. So it doesn't come off of anything else except the book. So if you have one of these, just be aware that you don't really want to get the cover wet, especially if you're working messily. You really don't want to do that. So yeah, this is going to be now my workbook of shadows. I'm just going to, I hadn't done anything in it, you know, I've done a border or two. I can change those back. I can change those to something else. And I'd done this. I did this by, I had one of those Christmas cards that had a cutout in it, and I took the front off the cutout and I put it on here, and it was the same size, and I drew around the oval and I marked it in, and then I did my writing on it. Simple as that. So I'm going to adjust this to workbook of shadows, and probably do a design down here just to balance it so it doesn't look top heavy. And then this will be like this book, where I've just, you know, I've stuck bits in, and I've drawn in it, and I've played in it, and yeah, you know, I've just had fun with it. Not that I'm not having fun with my other one, but I'm taking this one a little bit more seriously. So this is my keep book, if you like. And this is how it looks so far. Various people have told me about these books, and somebody actually bought a book that looked identical to this. In fact, it does look identical, but the paper is completely different. Or she says the paper is completely different. Mine is very nice white rag paper, and it's taking pens and things quite happily. Hers apparently isn't, it's bleeding through. So yeah, I think the paper quality is a bit hit and miss with these, but they are, you know, they are basically the fair trade ones that are handmade in India. So, you know, they produce thousands of them a year. You can't really expect them to be the highest quality, especially for, you know, some of the prices you pay for them. Mine was quite expensive, but it looks exactly the same. So I'm thinking perhaps the difference in prices that I found was because of the paper, because the Wolf one that I've got, the paper is horrible. I'm actually considering taking it out and rebinding it with better paper and using one of these to put the paper in, just cut the signatures out. I don't know. I may just persevere and try and find a pen that'll work on it, but yeah, I'm having a lot of problems with that paper, but this paper is beautiful. So this is what my book's looking like at the moment. I'm not going to go into detail on what's written on it, and as you'll see, my writing is quite small. Now, generally, in a book of shadows, what you see online is what I call the Charmed book. If you've seen the TV show Charmed, you know, they've got this massive book with huge writing in it so that it will show up on TV. I don't feel the need to have that. My book doesn't need to stand out on TV. I did originally do this on the front cover, but that was as big as I was going to go with it. I just wanted a book plate because it was such a plain book. With this one, I didn't feel the need to do that because it's not a plain book, it's beautiful, and I didn't want to detract from the loveliness of the book. So this down here says Book of Shadows, and I put the date started in Roman numerals just because I thought it would be different. There you go, you can see that. And I put the moon symbol because Moon Witch. So rather than doing enormous writing that would take me forever and fill up pages and pages and pages, I've gone for, this is my contents page, or will be, I've gone for working small and turning it into more of like a textbook almost. I will still do probably one spell on a page when I get that far because I feel that that's appropriate. However, with the aid of things like this, you know, I'll be able to put, like, I could perhaps stamp that could be my materials, and then I could have what you need, what you do, and the chant. Ooh, dog hair. And, you know, perhaps a bit of drawing or sketching to go with it. I can't use watercolour on this paper, unfortunately. It bleeds right through. It's far too absorbent for watercolour paper, but I'm going to try something in a minute that I think will work. When you set up a book of shadows, now there are certain conventions that have been brought about by the Wiccan community where you always start with your book blessing, and then you have, which is strange because a book blessing, as far as I can tell, a book blessing basically is a way of saying hands off, which to me isn't a book blessing, but you know, whatever. They normally have a book blessing and then perhaps a prayer to the goddess, and then they start with the Wiccan read. That's the first thing you put in a book of shadows. Well, I don't adhere to the Wiccan read. I don't believe in the Wiccan read, but I did some research and I found the Norse Read of Honour, which I really like. So I put that in there because I do consider myself to have a read, it's just not the Wiccan read. So yeah, I wrote the Norse Read of Honour in, and I've done titles like this. I didn't want them to look too out of place with my writing. I didn't want them to be huge titles and then tiny little writing, so I've done my titles like that. And what I've done is I've put it on the left hand side here, and then I've put it again at the end here, like they do in posh books. Just so that I can find things easily when I'm flipping through, although because I'm handwriting it, I'll know where everything is anyway. So yeah, this is the Norse Read of Honour. I was going to do some sort of embellishment here, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, and I haven't decided how I'm going to do my embellishments, because that's part of what I want to look at today. I've put in a section about my beliefs, because I think that's important, because since I don't have the Wiccan read, I thought this would go as an explanation as to why. So I've got a little bit about my beliefs as a witch, and then I've got a section on headology, because it encapsulates everything I believe. And that's straight from the Terry Pratchett Discworld books. I don't care. I like it. It makes sense to me, and it's, you know, it's a good way of viewing the world, I think. Again, if you want it, go and Google it. Then I've left a few pages. I love this. This is, I don't know what this is, whether it's a bit of leaf or a bit of butterfly wing or what, but obviously something got stuck to the paper while it was being made. It's really pretty. Let me see if I can get a close-up of it. Can you see that? Isn't it beautiful? I think it's a leaf, but it's really pretty. So yeah, I've left some more pages for that. And then the next section I wanted to do was the Wheel of the Year. So I started my Wheel of the Year. I don't really use the Wheel of the Year for ritual purposes as such. I kind of just use it as a turning of the wheel. I'm not doing this as kind of a, here's the ritual for this and here's the ritual for that, da 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 da. I don't really do that. But I will write correspondences and things in, and, you know, a brief history of each turning of the wheel and everything else. I will do this in a more practical sense of, you know, what herbs are relevant for spells that you cast at this point in time, and stuff like that. What moons correlate with which, and what, and that sort of thing. You'll notice that my pages look aged. Aren't they pretty? The book actually started off white. This is what I've been using. I've got some of the, I don't normally use this stuff. This is the Tim Holtz spongy stuff. I don't know what it's called. It's spongy stuff that you use with inks. I don't normally bother with this because frankly it's just a bit of rubber with a bit of foam stuck on it. A makeup sponge will work just as well. But I have got them, so I figured I might as well use them. Somebody gave them to me in a rack, and I thought, well, you know, I guess I might as well use them. But like I say, a makeup sponge will do. That's what I normally use. And actually a makeup sponge holds up better because it doesn't fall apart like these do. I've only done that many pages and look, it's in bits. Anyway, what I do like is the distress inks. So these are the Ranger distress inks, and I've got one in old paper, which is a kind of yellowy green, and one in tea dye, which is quite a dark brown. It's almost as dark as walnut stain, but not quite. And quite simply, what I've been doing is getting some colour on my sponge. I've done the edges of the paper already, because what I found was the paper's quite thick, so I had to go along the edges, just like that. Otherwise it doesn't pick up on the edges. And all I'm doing is going along like this. Not being very precise about it, but I'm trying not to get too many straight lines, because when you use these sponges, see, this is one of the reasons I like to use a makeup sponge, because the makeup sponges I've got are round, so they don't leave harsh lines. But you can blend the lines away, don't worry about it. If this is what you've got, it will work just fine. You know, you just have to be a little bit more careful about how you do it. I'm not worried about getting it on other pages because I'm doing it to all the pages. When I did the very first couple of pages, in order to make sure I didn't get it on the velvet, I just put a piece of scrap paper underneath it. Any inks that you're going to use on this irregular style paper, you know, it's not regular art paper, it's other stuff, always do a test first. Always, always, always. You will be extremely disappointed if you don't and something bleeds through 6 sheets. What I always do is I use the back of the page and I use this side here. Quiet, girls. I use this side here. That'll be the postman. And I just fold this in when I'm done, so you can't see it. That's all. So this is my pen tests. And all my pens have worked fine. A lot of people have been complaining that this paper bleeds, but I've used my silver fountain pen, a Lamy Safari with Lamy ink, my Sharpie fine liner, my rollerball pen, my gel pen, my friction pens even. Yeah, I've had no problems with bleeding. I've got a little bit of ghosting, but no bleeding. So I don't know. Maybe my paper's better quality and that's why my book was quite expensive. Anyway. So yeah, test your inks before you start working on your book. Oh, where's my page gone? There it is. Then I'm going to get my other ink. With these inks I always like to put the darker one on top, because until you've got the background you don't know how much ink you need. Or, well, I don't anyway. So I kind of did the whole edge of the page in the greenish yellow, the old paper, and then much lighter and not as all over the place, just picking up bits here and there. More to pick up the texture of the paper than anything else. I'm going back in with the tea stain, and anywhere that there's like harsh lines from the square of the stamp, I just go over that, blends them away like that. So I'm not going over it quite as heavily as I did with the other one. Like I say, I'm just picking out the texture of the paper. Keep it nice and irregular, you don't want to make it too uniform. Now that's a little bit harsh there, so I'm going to go back in with my green and break that line up a little bit. While it's still wet, you can go in with your fingers and smudge it out a bit as well. And that'll give you a... Oh, sorry. Did you not see that? Possibly. I don't know. I was just doing that, that's all. If you didn't see that and it wasn't on camera, that's all I was doing. So, that's how I'm edging my paper. I have thought about how I'm going to draw on the paper, and I think what I'm going to do is use my pastel pencils. I don't want to use anything too wet. I want it to kind of have a very faded vintage look, but I need something that's going to stand out, and the graphite is not doing it for me. I think I need something more brown. So what I'm going to do is try and find my brown pastel pencils and see if we can't get it to work with that. Pastel pencils. Again, I'm not going to work straight on the page, I'm going to go to my tester page and I'm going to find which one looks best. And in order to do that, I need to have the colour of the ink. So I'm just going to ink this page up with the colour. Because I think even on camera you can see there is quite a marked difference between what the white pages look like and what they look like when they're aged. Even just that little bit of ink makes quite a difference to the kind of optical illusion, I suppose it is, of the paper, making it look like it's got all old around the edges, and it makes the whole paper look a little bit different. Just like using the two colours makes it look different to using one. So there we go. I'm going to find my, what's this, grey? And sepia. I suspect this is the one I'll go for eventually, because it's kind of off black, dark brown kind of colour. This is the black. actually coming out much of a muchness. This is a cool grey. This is, oh, that's my carbon pencil, I don't want to use that one, it doesn't smudge. Van Dyke brown. Ah, now that's a bit more browny. I'm really liking that. And let me try the lavender. Oh, I quite like that too. I like that with the brown actually. And I've got a light grey. That's a bit wishy-washy, but it might be okay for shadows. Got an orangey brown. What's this colour? Sienna. That's too brown against the black ink, I think. This is Madder brown, which is a red brown. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice, I like that. So I'm going to smudge these out as well and see how they look smudged out, because obviously pastels go very, very light when they're smudged. Just using a paper stomp, and I'm going very carefully with this. Sorry, I keep going off camera, don't I? I'm out of practice at filming. I'm going very lightly with this because if an eraser pills up the paper, then a paper stomp's going to pill up the paper. I just want enough to blend the colours. Okay, so let's have a look and see which colour I like best with that dark writing. I think I actually like this brown, surprisingly enough, this very dark brown. This one's a bit too... I might use this for contrast colours, but I think the brown, the Van Dyke brown, will be the one I use for main colours, and then this for contrast, and maybe this for extra contrast. And if I decide to put shadows in, I'll use that one. I've already drawn this in pencil, but it doesn't really matter. All I did was I drew round the edge of a glass. I wanted a circle, I didn't want to use a compass, I used the edge of a glass. And now I'm going to freehand over the top . Instead of using that paper stump, I think I might just use my finger just to smudge it a little bit. On this paper I'm finding I am having to lay down quite a lot of colour. And you can see the bits of the paper pilling up. So do have to be careful of that. There we go. And because it's smudged, it won't budge after that. Once you smudge it, it stays smudged. What I want to do now is draw in the spokes of my wheel. Okay, so we want to start in the middle. We need 8 spokes. I'm going to say that's about in the middle. It is almost exactly in the middle actually, I don't know how I did that. And I'm going to divide my circle into 4 first of all. I'm actually following the grain of the paper here. I'm not being incredibly clever and drawing straight lines, I'm just following the grain of the paper. And I'm going to turn it this way so it's easier to see the right angle. I'm going to although I I won't say officially, but I sort of start my new year at Imbolc. But the traditional way is to start the Wheel of the Year at Samhain. So I'm actually starting it with Samhain at the top. That puts Imbolc there, which is just close enough for me. So I'll just smudge that out so it doesn't smudge too much. Yeah, I like that, that's pretty. And I think actually what I may do is use the other brown just to mark off the others. So halfway between these we've got Yule and Imbolc Ostara. Whatever the one on this side is that I can never remember the name of. After Ostara I start getting confused until I get back to Samhain again. I don't know why, just that second half of the year just doesn't seem to gel with me somehow. Oops. Because of the thickness of this book I have to keep moving it around, that's why I'm making you dizzy here. There we go. I'm going to use my paper stump for this one because I don't want it to blend into the other colour, which it will do if I just smudge it with my finger. It's probably not picking up much on camera, but it is softening it a lot. Yep, I like that. I think that looks good overall. So I'm going to start with my greater sabbats. Write those in. What special pen am I using for my Book of Shadows, you may ask? I'm using a cheap 50p rollerball from Wilko's because it's my favourite pen to write with at the moment. When it comes to writing on my pages, some of the girls in the group have already seen my pages, and I was asked, how do I get my writing so straight? I don't know, I just write straight. You can't erase on this paper, so you can't do lines and stuff on it if you aren't intending them to stay. I mean, if you're not bothered about it and you use a very light pencil, you could probably put lines in, that wouldn't be a problem, but you can't really see through it or anything, so I suppose unless you used a light box, but then that would be very awkward with the paper. So honestly, I don't know, you're on your own there, I just write straight. This apparently got away from me. I don't know what happened there, but as you can see when I wrote the bottom of it, it went back to being straight again, so I don't know. I eyeball it and it works. So I'm just going to write in my greater sabbats first, so I'm going to write them in capitals because they're the main ones. So Samhain, Imbolc. If you don't know your Wheel of the Year, first off go and learn it, and second look it up online. It's everywhere. Remember, just in case you don't know, remember if you're in the southern hemisphere, so anywhere south of the equator, your Wheel of the Year will be upside down. It will be it's like the constellations, everything's upside down. So if you're Australian or South American or most of Africa, you know, anywhere in those kind of countries, you need to be checking what it is, whether you're in the north or south hemisphere, and which way your Wheel of the Year goes, because your dates will be opposite. If you're clever enough to work it out on your own, by all means do. I'm not going to say you shouldn't, but that's not the kind of thing I'm good at, so I'm not going to say, oh yes, you just do this, this, this and this and it works, because I have no idea, honestly. I would be very confused if I suddenly moved to the Southern Hemisphere. Ah, Lunasa. That's the one I can never remember. I don't know why. I don't know how to spell it. Okay, so I've done those in capitals. I think I will do my lesser sabbats in lowercase. And then I'm going to put in, along my axes, I'm going to put in the various correspondences that I know of. So Yule is winter solstice. Ostara is the spring equinox. This is the summer solstice. And the autumn equinox. And I'm also going to put in some astrological correspondences, because I do astronomy, so I'm going to put some of those in. And I always start down here between Ostara and Beltane, because that is Aquarius, which is my star sign. So it's easy for me to remember. And then we've got Taurus. Oh, I like this with the... Now, I'm not smudging this, I'm just kind of dabbing it, just to take off any excess. I like that with contrast with the purple. I think that looks really pretty. Cancer. Leo. Libra. It's quite hard to be precise with pastel pencils because they don't really sharpen to a point. Virgo. I can never remember Virgo. Oh yes. Oh, I think I've done that wrong. That should be Sagittarius. And Cancer. That Cancer should be down here. Capricorn should be down here. Oh well, mistakes happen. I'm going to use a clean bit of this eraser stuff, this sponge foam, and see if I can dust off. So rather than trying to erase it as such, just trying to lift it off, and it's working. There we go. So this one should be Sagittarius. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to darken up the dark brown a little bit now that I've got the other colours in. I feel that these bits could be a little darker. There we go, there's my Wheel of the Year. I want to keep the illustrations in this quite simple, rather than going too ornate with it. I want to be able to play around in my other book and you know, do weird and wonderful stuff. I don't really want to spend hours doing if I can find it, this kind of thing. I'll do that in my other book, in my workbook. This one I want to keep more as a reference book, so I need it to be clear and concise and easy to read. I think what I'm going to do for these is just underline, not heavy underline, just a little bit, the main ones, just so they stand out just a little bit. Whoops. Yes, I like that, that's good. And then I've got all the corresponding dates down here, because I didn't want to have too much going on up here. Okay, something else I want to do is a little bit of stamping. I want to try out my stamps and my ink, so that's something else I'm going to try. I think I'll give this a go. Let's grab my inks. I seem to have put my black ink down somewhere, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. I think I'll use my sepia, because the sepia is more in keeping with the colours here, I think. So this is the archival ink because it's waterproof. All the inks I'm using in this are waterproof. Let's see how that works. It's not picking up ink very well, it might need cleaning first. Ooh, me likey! Pretty. And the ink's not bleeding through. Yay! So that's good. So it does come out pretty much the same. I mean, obviously it's a stamp, you know, it's going to be the same, but they can look very different in black than they do in brown. Now this one, I like this bit here, and I want to use that in between my bits and pieces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try the whole stamp first. This is quite a big one, so I think what I'll do is I've just stuck it to the lid, just so that it's a bit easier to ink it up. Try this one over here. This I'll probably use for ingredients for spells and things like that. Notes, correspondences and stuff. Yes, pretty! Pretty, pretty. I think I like that one better than that one. This one's very nice, but it's this fleur-de-lis kind of thing around the outside is a bit fussy. I would have preferred just a plain line. But it is a rubber stamp, so I might be able to carve that out. Yeah, I might be able to carve that out without ruining the stamp. I would have preferred it just to be a plain line like this for the oval, but yep, I like it. It's pretty. So, I'm going to wipe my stamp off, because I only want to ink up the edge of this stamp up here. So I'm going diagonally to the corner, getting that bit in the centre, and then diagonally to this corner. Just make sure I haven't got anything on the edges. Yes, it's a bit fussy, but it'll be worth it, trust me. So, one of the places I wanted to put this was in here. So, line it up with my writing and yes! Oh, doesn't that look lovely? Oh, I like it, I like it, I like it. Oh, I could go a bit crazy with this one. Okay, put this one over here and line it up. I love it! Isn't that cute? It looks like a proper textbook. Oh, I'm so excited about that. I know, it's the little things. Right, what shall I do with this one? I think I might line it up. Oh, it's so pretty. I love it. It's just one of those things that gives an extra little touch. So on here I'll put contents and then I'll put that thing underneath it again, just like if it was a regular book. Or a regular printed book. So this is what we've got now. I'll probably leave that page blank unless I really need it, and I'll just put an icon in there. So this is how it's looking. This needs, I think this needs some kind of a picture down here. I'll do something down there. These are blank pages for the rest of my important stuff, and then it comes to the Wheel of the Year. Yay! Oh, I like that. That's going to work well. So, recap. This is a stamp. This is actually, the stamps are from Urban Stamps by Do Crafts Papermania. I don't know, they go with the Madame Perrault set anyway, and I really liked them, so. My pen, again, I'm using a cheapy rollerball. These are like 50p in Wilko's. I love it. I've bought about 10 of these because they're just so nice to write with, but they're not refillable. They do last a long time though, so, you know, unless you're going to use them for a big project, you don't really need to buy loads of them. But I did, because I really like them. If you find something you like, buy lots of it. Pastel pencils in 2 different browns and a mauve for my diagrams and things. I think that'll work well. And at the back I've got my tester page, and when I've finished with the tester page, because I'm going to limit the amount of materials I'm using in this, I don't want to use thousands of different pens, I'll simply fold that in and that will be just a piece at the back of the book. You could always leave the back page and use the next page in if you wanted to, and fold that one in so you couldn't even see it, but I'm quite happy to have a page at the back of the book to use as a tester. There you go, that's my Book of Shadows so far.